I'll concede your point just for brevity. But
What? Brevity? We don't do that around here. It's probably
No.
Citrus, or what is a Capital One Bowl? It used to be Citrus Bowl, right?
oh my
Capital
God,
One.
dude, where have you been?
I just like the real name.
It hasn't been the Citrus Bowl since 2002?
What was your highlight side dish from Thanksgiving?
Oh gosh, Scotch.
This is the Buck Around, the podcast devoted to all things Wisconsin Badger football from a fan perspective. Featuring your hosts, Richard Branch and Maxwell Brusky.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Buck Around. Welcome back to episode 361 of the Buck Around. I am one half of the Buck Around, Richard Branch, and this is really the only time you're going to hear me, because in a moment I am going to hand off the show to my partner and our super special mystery guest who have already recorded. But I'm just here because we had a little thrown off production schedule this week because I was gone all weekend, wasn't even able to watch the game. I have, at this point, and it's 4:00 Eastern on a Tuesday afternoon, only watched the first half of the football game. So I am just super excited to feel that euphoric feeling you all saw when the Badgers just made a great comeback in the second half and the magic started happening on their inevitable march to the Rose Bowl and a college football playoff spot. So very jealous of you all right now. But at any rate, just wanted to record a little spot to throw in the talk around because you guys left some bangers this week. Some old faces came back, or old voices, old names came back, some new voices. It was great, and we just thought it just deserved a spot. And getting it all together with me out of town and Max trying to do the work of two, just kind of made it a little trickier. So anyways, we did things a little out of order, and that's why you're hearing me now, because there wasn't really an easy way to cut it into the show. So I think on that note, I'm going to hand it off to all of you, and then that will segue into Max. And yeah, I got to stop now because there's a cat scratching at my door whose name you know. At any rate, we're not talking about him anymore. See you all probably next week. I think at this time and space, there might be a State of the Union type show that's worth having just to sort of mull some things over. Also with a bye week to sort of let cooler heads prevail and all that stuff. So anyways, thanks everybody. Enjoy the show.
Stepping out of work to even do this so I don't sound like a complete idiot in the office. But obviously, it was a bad loss this weekend, and I have one more Badger haiku for you, which is losses weigh heavy. Votes of confidence issued. Sign of things to come. Guys, have a great week.
Hey guys, it's Armon in Maryland.
This is Steve from Evanston. Long time, first time.
John from Minneapolis. First time, long time. Hey, this is Skin Lamp Nate here.
Tom on the train.
John from San Francisco.
Steve from Portland.
Jonathan from Madison. Just find someone who can snap the frickin' ball.
I don't know what more can be said about this team that hasn't already been said about Afghanistan. It's bombed out and depleted.
Cardell Hallman has regained his Michigan State form from a couple of years ago.
All right, I'm going to look for a positive moment. The beer vendors are incredible. Whatever they hired, they're great.
Wisconsin has become Nebraska. Nebraska has become Wisconsin.
So I'm going to head out to sit in the oppressive humidity at Farm Aid for 12 hours because that seems more fun than watching this crap.
Running it on third down at least 4 times when they haven't been able to run the ball successfully all season.
No one in their right mind thought they were going to make that field goal, especially after running on 3rd and 7.
Billy Edwards was not going to be healthy enough to play, period.
Johnson needs to go back to just fat guys and running the football.
I'm going to have to go ahead and disagree with Rich's assessment from last week's show that he thought that he could understand what the offense was doing. They are just mashing random buttons on the controller right now.
Does this week's guest host know how to snap or block?
This is a disaster. Losing to one of the worst teams in the Big Ten at home.
I wasn't really on team fire Fickell. Fickell needs to go, now. I just think everyone needs to be fired.
Can't see firing Fickell because he just doesn't deserve the buyout.
So is the highlight of the Luke Fickell era that it brought the Buck Around back to us? Maybe it is.
Everyone has to go. That was the most embarrassing game I've ever been to.
Is Don Morton still alive? Did we bring him back?
On Wisconsin.
This is Chris in the Twin Cities signing off on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
On Fitzgerald, on Wisconsin.
As always, on Wisconsin.
This is John in D.C. Obviously, yesterday was extremely disappointing. I mean, I went out last night on U Street wearing my Russell Wilson jersey trying to see what kind of trouble I could start, just maybe feel something again and try to get over myself emotionally. No one gave it. Like, there's no such thing as a Maryland fan anywhere, so it really doesn't even matter. It was like one of those things that hurts because you lost to somebody that sucks so hard. I mean, I also feel completely resigned to the fact that we can't pay Luke Fickell, which is fine. I mean, shouldn't be looking to fire people for $1 bajillion. But we do need a head, and I do think that we should be able to tar, feather, and run Chris McIntosh out of town. Looking back, obviously, we all agreed that Luke Fickell was a fantastic hire. That being said, it obviously has not worked, and we're entitled to get someone's head on a bike. We're fans. That's what we're entitled to. And so we obviously can't afford to do that for Luke Fickell's head. So we should be allowed to do that with Chris McIntosh's head. Plus, if this goes the way it looks, there is no reason to give Chris McIntosh another opportunity to hire another coach. This isn't just about football. He has fucked a lot of things with the athletic department. I mean, I'm still pissed off about the bricks. So between the bricks and now this, I have completely lost my thing. This is a great opportunity now to get rid of him and kind of clean house, restart everything, and then the next person can choose whether to keep Luke Fickell around. But also, the nice part at the end of the day was I'm sitting there during the game thinking, oh, my God, where's Brett? Where's the Bela Hog? I want him back. I want that sexy Brett back. He's top 10. What can I do? Give me some of that. And then he goes out and gets blown out by Indiana. So I feel much better, at least, about that. I was feeling pretty for the Brett, but now I feel much better about it. So we can just go back to being miserable about Luke Fickell without having to dream about Brett Bielema. Anyway, thank you guys for coming back for Luke Fickell. Sucks that happened, that now you guys have basically wasted all this time talking about the Badgers at the worst possible part of them after you thought you'd retired. But we appreciate it. We love you guys. Thank you so much. On Wisconsin.
All right. Hello, everybody. We have episode 361 of the Buck Around podcast. And as you're hearing in the intro, it's Maxwell Brusky today without Richard Branch, who is, I want to say he's on assignment. He's kind of on assignment, just not for the show, for life, really. So we got a little bit of a special treat for you, and we have a guest host, and it is Ryan Anderson of the Dairy Raid, let's say Combine, because there's so much content on Substack or YouTube from the Dairy Raid and has been for some time, and quality stuff for anybody who's been there. And if you haven't, you shouldn't. But welcome in from environs far away, Ryan Anderson. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you stepping up. Like I said, Rich is on assignment doing
no problem.
doing family stuff. So it's kind of funny, though. It's an interesting time and week for for a little bit of a, I guess, change of pace for the format of the show. And it's probably I think the main topic for everybody is a change of pace for the entire Wisconsin football program.
That might be where we're starting to get to, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I just it's interesting because most of the people that I interact with, and our listeners and all that, I have all kinds of text conversations going and Twitter and this one, a lot of times if I'm not at the game, the beer can kind of it goes kind of slow and whatnot, but that didn't happen. That didn't happen this time for me. And by the third quarter, I don't want to say how many beers I had, but it was several. And I think I was in good company with most of Badger Nation. And it got not only punchy, but I think at least from the fan perspective, folks seem to be kind of at the end of their patience.
Well, I think a lot of people have had short patience with Luke Fickell from the beginning. And those of us who have tried to stay with the ship and be like, okay, well, we can pinpoint things that are going wrong and things are out of his control and yada, yada, yada. We can do that. And Saturday, it's just like, I give up. you're probably right. I don't know what exactly Luke Fickell is doing wrong, but it's not right. I mean, we can pinpoint a lot of little things, but it's just I don't know what happened to the coach that we thought we got in 2022 to where we are now.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to just to think about like how bad things have gone. Were things so much worse here than we thought they were when he was coming in that it's snowballed? Obviously, things like injuries can't help, but you can't. You can only blame injuries so much, and it goes to roster construction. It goes to culture, the big word there. It goes to identity, and Saturday was just the culmination of all of it. And I think many of us are done.
And you made the point too that, and I love how you said those of us, because I think that, for myself, that I certainly trusted the process such as I discerned whatever process there was. And there's just so much to talk about, but the recruiting seems like it had gotten better and at least tailored to what you could discern that the coach and his staff wanted to do. And not to drag it too far aside, but one of the things that I thought was really disappointing, I guess, is that so many of the young guys, there were some linebackers that played. At least for me, I expected Eugene Hilton to be touching the ball all the time, and he's like disappeared. And if you want like the young guys to play, there really hasn't been that many of them. So, I mean, that's just like one piece of evidence, I guess, that is a symptom or whatever the problem is, because you also said it too, that it's really, really hard to put a finger on what exactly the problem is. And you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think with the young guys, maybe we're starting to, those of us who have been kind of begging for the young guys to get opportunities even before the Luke Fickell era, I think we're starting to realize the importance of veterans, because young guys have all the talent in the world, but they make rookie mistakes. And a big reason why Tretch didn't play a lot last year, he wasn't a very good route runner.
Yeah.
He was a really good athlete. And he was great with the ball in space. He still is, but he was not a very good route runner and not the greatest blocker and stuff like that. Eugene Hilton has great hands, runs great routes. He's a little slow.
Yeah.
For a D1 wide receiver.
Which is interesting, because you wouldn't think that.
No.
Yeah.
But you can see it. The young offensive lineman, when Emerson Mandel gets his hands on somebody, he's taking him for a ride. But wow, he's got a long ways to go with his feet. Same thing with Cubberly. Corey, we'll talk about his snaps later, but it's stuff like that. And it makes you wonder that if maybe some of the veteran guys that have been purged over the last couple of years, specifically on the offensive line, guys that we thought were afterthoughts, like Dylan Barrett and James Durand, and to a lesser extent, because they weren't afterthoughts, like Trey Wettig and Rucci, maybe not pushing them aside, because you got to push them aside, because if you want to get the young guys in, you got to promise them playing time, because in this era of the NIL, kids aren't going to wait to be a redshirt junior to start like we used to be able to get away with in the past. And it's that, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. It's like you got to get a position for the young guys to play early. And if you don't, then you're going to stick around. And then the veterans aren't going to want to sit behind young guys. It's a bad situation, but specifically with the offensive line, one that I bet if they could go back, they would reconsider how they made up that room, because it's got a lot of young talent. It's going to be really good in 2027.
Yeah, in 2027.
But right now, and it's going to be better next year. But right now, we could have used a Dylan Barrett or a James Durand, or we definitely could have used a Hayden Rucci, or Nolan Rucci, wrong Rucci. Yeah. And it's all coming down to the offensive line, I think, now that you really kind of think about it.
Yeah. So when folks heard this podcast last, I after Alabama, it's like, and my point was, not every team they're going to be, they're playing is the Alabama Crimson Tide in Tuscaloosa. Okay, fine. And my partner really gave me a week's worth of stuff to think about when it all begins and ends with the offensive line. And I hadn't heard that, obviously, it's this offensive line is a topic of conversation, but I hadn't heard it in the way that he phrased it. And then I heard a couple other people say that. So that's actually a pretty good transition point, because I talked about some of the young guys that aren't playing. You gave some reasons for at least why some of them shouldn't, but the biggest group of young guys that are playing, you just went over it, is the offensive line. And I think the offensive line in this particular game, because I just want to say it, like, let's look at this particular game and how much went wrong. And yeah, it certainly did start with the offensive line. And the snaps, you talked about that. There was several of those. You had a happy feet quarterback who's just a happy feet quarterback. And the problem is that, okay, that you're looking at the game going into it. Yeah, we know that's a problem. And I thought Grimes does some interesting things. And I don't know if he's a little pushy or I don't, cheeky is not the word really, but like, and I don't want to say like, too clever by half, but I figured that Grimes is the way that Grimes does things, that he'll be able to work around it. I always felt that way about Paul Chris. Like, I don't know. They know they know what's there and what they have to work with, and they'll come up with stuff. And I thought that Grimes did that, and I thought that he would do that. What I didn't count on was the fact that the rest of this and so much of what happened on Saturday was way beyond the O-line. And I don't know about you. Can you remember the last time they had a blocked field goal or a blocked punt, let alone a blocked field goal and a blocked punt in the same game?
It's been a while.
Those are things
if it
you didn't
definitely
take
not in the
granted,
same game,
but nobody was talking about that.
No, and it's one of those things where it's funny. Like this year, the thing that we talked the most about in the offseason that had to improve was the defense. Right. And, Tressel's on his way out. Nobody's really talking. Well, we can talk about some things that went wrong defensively.
Sure.
But they fixed most of the problems.
I feel like it too. Yeah.
And for the most part, they're doing okay with what they have. We can say they're transitioning offenses and there might be some learning curve and stuff like that. I don't think anybody expected the special teams to just regress. And then of course we get our first kickoff return for a touchdown in how many years? Right. Last week we get the big punt return.
You have to go back to Crookshank, I think, for the last one.
We get a nice punt return.
Yeah.
Special teams the last 3 years have never really been an issue. Okay, field goal kicking withstanding, but coverage and stuff like that haven't been as much of an issue. It is just, okay, what's going to be the problem this week? And because the special teams errors led to directly 2 points, and turnovers led directly to points. So you look at that 27-point score, and you can't blame Tressel. We want to really badly to blame Tressel for all of that, but it's a team effort, and we're talking. Luke Fickell's talked about complementary football.
That's on the verboten list for the Buck.
Yeah,
just so you know.
Well, this is so whatever the opposite of what is the bizarro world complementary. Yeah. It's special teams errors are leading to defensive mistakes, and offensive mistakes are leading to it, and it's spiraling the wrong direction, and it's. Again, it's I don't know why it's regressing so much. I honestly cannot figure it out. And this is not me trying to find the silver lining with Luke Fickell. I don't get it. I don't get it why we can get this bad this quickly, because there were signs in the first 2 weeks, like, okay, we're putting things together. Defense is improved in certain areas. Okay, it was Alabama, and then Maryland. We had problems with Maryland.
Yeah, it was really funny. I saw that Malik Washington was the Big Ten Freshman of the Week, and I like tweeted that with like a clown, or not a clown thing, but it was like the facepalm emoji. That dude's good, don't get me wrong, but like this team made him look really, really good. And most of his first half performance was because he was on short fields. I mean, the backbreaker touchdown wasn't until the fourth quarter, and the defense just kept getting put in a spot where, my goodness, I thought the defense played really well, especially on the line of scrimmage, which, talked about last year, even the year before to some extent, but that's where you needed to see the most improvement, was on the line of scrimmage. And I think whatever the folks that they brought in and the ones that were already here, I think Sebastian Cheeks is really, I think he's turned into a pretty solid player. They did really well on that, even up into the fourth quarter. And I think when that last drive, when the one that led to the long pass, when they had the Badgers had driven the length of the field, and they're on the 20, inside the 20, convert a 4th and 1, convert the 4th and 1 with the Acapelli that I think if you're watching on TV, everybody thought that they did make the line to gain. But you go through all that. 3 plays later, Danny O'Neal does whatever the hell Danny O'Neal was doing, and they get taken out of field goal range. And that was like every single drive had good plays, and then catastrophic plays. And the crazy part is that not even so many of those were even penalties. It was just really, really bad offensive line play and a quarterback who's not used to doing that. So he gets crazy. And then, okay, great. You wind up punting. You put the defense back on the field again. And the first thing that happens from the 2-yard line is they convert a first down. And I don't know, for me, that was kind of the first time that I saw the defense just crack and say, like, screw this. And
yeah, you can only do so much.
What really scares me is the screw this part. Anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, you can have a defense that has been, we've all been there with your offense is not producing. Defense is bending but not breaking. They're keeping you in it. They're limiting the damage. And it just gets to the point where one thing goes slightly wronger than before, whatever. first down on the 2-yard line. And it's just, that's the last straw. And then the adrenaline dump happens and you can't recover. And when you have an offense that cannot pick up the slack, it just spirals out of control. And that's exactly what happened this weekend.
And you say the spiral part, and the spiral part is just, I think that's kind of the thing too, is it didn't take long for it to spiral. And God bless the effort that the front 7 on defense put in. And I'm not saying that the back end wasn't putting in effort either. That's not true. I just think there's on the outsides there's just an ability gap. Kind of funny too, because I always felt that way about Hallman. And I remember, oh gosh, I think it was the Rutgers game in 2023 where I think I texted Rich and I said, Ricardo Hallman is not a Big Ten corner. and then he goes and has all those interceptions and whatnot. But I think what you've seen the last 2 weeks is really that's the height of Ricardo Hallman. But I kind of got off track there. But the spiraling out of control part is the bad. Like that's what everybody sees, and it makes you so frustrated in year 3. And when, at least talking about it last week, that with a lot of these teams on their schedule, you didn't think Maryland was going to be one of them, but you have, if the defense is sound at the line of scrimmage and can get some effective pass rush, which I don't think the pass rush was that bad. I think there were some bright spots there. And if you could limit the big plays against most teams, and I got Alabama, and some of the others notwithstanding, but you have to play sound on it's the old Barry Alvarez formula. It's the old Kirk Ferentz, what Iowa does. But the thing is that they don't make so many mistakes, right? I mean, that was the whole formula, is you wait for the other team to screw up. You're not the team that's going to screw up. You're going to play tight and you're going to close an ability gap, which is kind of interesting because I don't even know, outside of the cornerbacks and the offensive line, I don't even know how much of an ability gap there is, certainly with teams like Maryland. I don't know that the talent on this team is completely bereft either. When you look up and down the roster, my whole thing was, we got some dudes too. Or even on defense, you got a Mason Reger, and I think Allegro, and those guys are dudes too.
We have pieces on both sides of the ball, and again leading to the frustrating part, because you would think that they would be able to, like, offense. We have skill. We have good players at all the skill position spots, and we just can't rise above. And you kind of talk like how we used to be able to do things back in the day. It was to limit mistakes on offense. The defense was going to shut things down. Now we're almost asking the defense to go above and beyond what the defenses could do in the past, because we don't have that dude. We have a bunch of guys, but we don't have that one guy who can take games over. That back in the day, when we would play against the teams like Alabama on our schedule, so the Ohio States, the Penn States,
sure,
they would focus all their effort on that dude. And if they could stop him, you could stop the entire team. Now the offense is not that good anymore. So now they're just going to, all right, what are you weakest at today? We are going to attack that.
What are you weakest at today?
and we're going to dare you to do something else. And against Miami, Ohio, and Middle Tennessee. Okay, we were able to rise above that. Okay. Yeah, they were taking away the run. Fine. We could get some passing. We could do stuff here and there, whatever. But against Maryland, Maryland's defensive game plan was let's just send bodies at the offensive line at all different angles, and I dare you to do something about it. And they couldn't, or they didn't.
They simply could not.
And there were situations, and it's not just the young guys in the offensive line. I think Brunner has had a terrible season so far this year, and they are exploiting. Teams have found the blueprint to give us problems, and that is attack the offensive line, not a specific person, but just use the things that we always used to have problems with. And we would think by now that, okay, now that we have more talent, quote unquote, on the team, that we could overcome, which is speed in the box, movement in the box, and then giving the quarterback a lot of defensive eye candy. And now it is just coming together in a perfect storm that the offense is just barely functional anymore, at least consistently. Again, we see chunks and spurts, and like we saw over the weekend, you were just talking about, we do a couple good plays in a row, something like that, and then something catastrophic would happen.
Yeah.
And
every single
that
drive.
doesn't, yeah. And I don't know who you blame a catastrophic play on other than the kid himself. And you don't want to do that, but I can't think of anybody. It's not like AJ Blazik is teaching Ryan Corey to snap it over the guy's head.
Right.
Or teaching him any weird technique or anything like that. I think he is doing the best with what he's got. I'm at a loss for words, and that's probably not a good thing to have on a podcast, but just how.
Oh, that's all right. You'll have more to say.
Yeah. Just the offense is, and as an offensive guy, as I like to call myself, it's pretty disheartening to see just how a total package of ineptitude the offense is right now.
So that's actually a good transition point right there, because what can you look at? I mean, we talked about, I felt like, there was some great stuff on offense for a play each drive, and then it just went to crap. And it's just, when you look at it, I don't know what they can hold on to. And we were talking there during a intermission, and I never listened to Barry Alvarez's show, and I was recommended to do that, which was interesting because I think what stood out was the his chiding of the student section.
I noticed that. We're not like this, and that was a real funny thing. I saw that clip come up, and the student section, the fans, and he's griping on something that people say isn't the problem.
Yeah.
But it's Barry saying it's the problem. And we're supposed to listen to Barry. So if Barry thinks the fans are a problem, well, maybe. But I also get and Chris Brooks saying, we haven't felt support since before 2022, I think is what he said. Don't want to put words exactly in his mouth, but I saw somewhere where
it's been a while.
It's been a while since he's felt support. Now, of course, the players have got to do something worthy of the support, but it's also, it goes to the thing that's the fan base, the sometimes toxic nature of the fan base has got to take a toll at times. And I can't imagine how difficult it is for the players and the staff to have to listen to that. Especially the players who came in believing
too. There was so many high level recruits and top like plan A targets and all that. Yeah, I don't know.
And they still got to commit, which I found they
not just a commit, a freaking flip.
Yeah. So and I've read things from parents and stuff like that saying the players could care less about what's happening on the field. It's about the relationships and stuff like that. But that's got to be. But that being said, it's got to be hard to hear the guy that you're building a relationship with, everybody hates, and for whatever reason. But to actually hear Barry point it out and say that we are part of the problem.
Yeah, that was stunning, and it wasn't until I don't know, maybe 45 minutes into it too, because I was waiting for because again, it was recommended to me you got to check this out without anything more, and I'm like, okay, and again, I don't ever listen to it, so it's not part of my intel, it's not part of my show prep, and frankly, I don't give a damn what that dude has to say at this point. And there was another point out there too that was it 96, 4-5-1, 2001? That dude lost his last game. And I remember a lot, the in Iowa, 2005 at home with a lot on the line and blah, 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 whatever it is. It's just, the St. Barry thing to me is just fascinating. And I am going to say that just because if anybody talks to me in real life, I will, say the same thing. I don't know if I've ever put that on the show before, but I never listened to it. And that was the thing that I think everybody's talking about, and rightly so. And I've been there. I lost my voice at the Alabama game because I was booing and yelling at the sideline from, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 yards away. But I still lost my voice yelling at him because I was so displeased. I wasn't saying fire the coach, but, I voiced my displeasure, put it that way. So I haven't been myself the most supportive fan. And I wouldn't chant fire the coach. I wouldn't jump in on that anyway. It's just not what I do. But that thing stood out for me.
Yeah.
And it's funny, Ryan, because what I was going to say when I brought the interview was he talked about his thing was you got to have something to hang your hat on, and whether or not there was anything positive in this particular game or any to the season. And I'm not seeing whatever that is, which really goes into the point that if there was something like that, I feel like, you could do that. My son, the Iowa junior, is they always, and they get frustrated with their team too. And especially with their head coach, blah, 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 blah. But they all know that punting is winning. And at the end of the day, if you're going to a bowl in Nashville or Florida, it's good and they have winning seasons, but they can hang their hat on punting is winning. What is there to hang your hat on here? What would, and this is going to be kind of the next little point of conversation, where do we go from here? But like, what would they hang their hat on? What was there anything positive that happened?
I mean, the things that they could build, especially building an offense around to get, I don't know, excited about isn't the right word, to feel competent again.
Yeah. Yes.
Are the things that now, having been through the last 2+ years, give me pause. Because like we have a young, mobile, gunslinging type quarterback. We could really feed into that. He could run the ball 15 times a game on design QB runs and zone reads and stuff like that. He could do that. But what has happened over the last 2 years with quarterbacks, and we saw it on Saturday, is they get hurt. And
have you seen, I don't mean to interrupt you, but have you seen a status on Danny O'Neil? I haven't heard a single thing about that since Saturday. And we're talking on Tuesday morning here.
I don't think Hunter Simmons playing at the end is anything to worry about. Danny, he's probably beat up, of course.
Yeah. It looked like he left the game with a specific injury, but to your point.
But then it's more like, okay, Hunter Simmons aside, we are a quarterback injury or so away from, Milos getting playing time, and or Carter Smith, and that could be a whole other, again, if we're going to start going down that road, do we just say, screw it, let's go? And
I think you do. I mean,
and think Danny's, I don't want to say Danny's expendable, but almost.
Yeah.
You have to play into, because, and this is the thing, is like going into the Alabama game, I was preaching. I thought that Jeff Grimes was making the game a little bit too difficult for Danny. They were trying to do too much. They had all this, not even just eye candy and movement, just unnecessary components to the offense.
Sure.
And we still saw a little bit of it this weekend with some of the weird lineman shifts and the unbalanced formation. Hey, we actually ended up getting good plays out of it, so I can't complain too much. But it's going to come down to making a decision, and it's coming down to make a decision. Do we go big or go home? Does Jeff Grimes and Luke Fickell think about next year, or do they think about their contract is going to be over here in a month and a half, and we just like, either we're going to be auditioning for new jobs, or we're going to prove to the program that we can actually do what we want to. And that might mean having that attitude with Danny, which Danny already has, which makes him reckless in the passing game. But it's stuff that you could use to build a running game when you don't have the world's greatest offensive line. It's kind of how like the service academies get away with the offenses they run, especially if you look at them now. Mm-hmm. You look at Air Force and Navy and Army, they look closer to what some of the stuff we do in the run game than they used to in the past. They still do the flex bone stuff, but they do so much more.
Yeah.
I think you're just going to have to say, go with it. I mean, Hunter Simmons, the little bit of film I saw on him from last year, he has some mobility enough to him. And if Billy Edwards ever gets healthy, who cares? We have to assume right now that Danny O'Neil is the starting quarterback for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
I think that's just how it's got to be.
Unless he was in fact hurt, but who knows?
Which could be.
Yeah.
But because I also think too, if you have that mentality, then he's your starter going into next year. Carter Smith's the starter of the year after that. Whatever. That's the direction of the offense. But then you've got to hang your hat on it. It's like, okay, this means the quarterback's going to get hit. This means the quarterback's going to run. This means we need to build passing off of this run stuff. And to the disappointment of maybe some outside receivers, maybe whatever. Don't care. We've got to find something that can bring a level of competence to this offense. And I think the one good thing the offense has done this year is Danny O'Neal. And when he's been given opportunities to make plays with his feet. So that's where you got to, I think that for the offense, that's where you got to hang your hat, because it's going to help. I think it's going to help everybody. And you can't assume that the injury gremlin is going to be coming after Danny O'Neal too. And you can't think about that.
You can't play that way. Yeah,
you got because honestly, if it's gonna come down to everyone getting hurt and Carter Smith gets in anyways, that's gonna be Carter Smith's game too. Is scramble around, run the ball.
100%.
So
yeah.
So this idea of running a NFL style offense has kind of have to go out the window. It's like we need to run a college offense again. And what do college teams do with quarterbacks who have somewhat questionable decision making but have good feet? I mean, guys become first round draft picks with less.
Yeah.
So you've got I think that's what you've just gotta try with Danny and try to build something around it, because I think the coaching staff right now has to assume they don't have next year to build towards. They have until November to build towards. And building towards November better somehow. I don't think this coaching staff gets out of this season without a bowl game, which is a very daunting task now. But I think the fan base is going to, Bo Pelini this situation and force a change. Now, Bo Pelini got forced out for winning 9 games, and they forced him out to bring in the prodigal son coming home, and they soured on him pretty quickly. So don't Badger fans.
So they got rid of Pelini and they brought in Riley. That's my grand.
Oh, that's right. Riley came first. That's right. Riley came first, and then Scott Frost.
Yeah.
So Scott. Yeah. Okay, so let's say don't Riley this. I guess Riley would be the better situation.
It's funny you say that too. As Bo Pelini's a good soundbite is don't F it up.
Yeah,
that's one of his best soundbites.
But
with the way that was too, I mean, it was stale, right? Fine, you win 9 games, but it was stale, and he was getting. I mean, he had 70 points dropped on him in a championship game, against the team earlier in the season. So
when you're a program that wins national champion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When you win national championships, 9 games, I guess, isn't good enough.
Yeah.
So it's just going to come down to the coaching staff has got to have that attitude, or we're going to be in a Riley to Frost situation where are they going to bring in a Wisconsin guy and then they sour on him when he doesn't win right away? And I mean, I don't want to. That's going to give anybody coming in, regardless of what happens, and I guess I'm assuming right now that Luke Fickell gets fired. Any coach coming into this situation is going to be taking a very deep breath and a very deep, long look into what he's coming into. Because if a person in the position of Luke Fickell in 2022 can't fix a program that wasn't really broken, it was just stagnant, then what am I going to do? And if I don't turn it around right away, let's say they bring in, it's not going to be Jim Leonard. Sorry, Badger fans. He ain't coming back. He's in the NFL now. Sean Lewis comes in from San Diego State and, doesn't turn around right away. I mean, it's going to be Scott Frost all over again. And why would anybody want to come here? So that's
there's that. And then, I'm glad you talked about it, because I don't think, when I was talking about doing this episode, I'm like, well, maybe we'll have more to talk about it. I think a lot of people felt like, all right, he's not going to make it out of the weekend, right? I know I did. Whether or not they could put the money together, and a lot of the conversation, at least for me, is like I kept bringing up Gary Anderson, that dude, you should walk away from the buyout, which I know if my partner was on, we got a back and forth about that, and I don't necessarily want to go there, but I mean, that's been the topic of conversation, because the other part of it, to your point, is who hires the next guy. I mean, do people want that guy hiring the next guy? Because that's not how major college football works. Like, you get one chance, and you don't get another time to do it, and then all the rest of it gets surrounded with all the other stuff that's been going on. And, the point that I make is how hard is it to inherit Greg Gard, Kelly Sheffield, and Mike Johnson and just keep extending them, especially when two of them are competing for national championships, like on a regular basis, right? And it's not a hard job, and you look at all this other background stuff with the women's basketball program, and I think it's the women's softball program. And so I don't know what's there. And we get these one vote of confidence, totally weird, unsolicited. Then another one from a chancellor. So I just don't think they're not going anywhere, which brings us back to the point of, find something to hang your hat on. It was kind of funny because, and again, my judgment and perspective may have been off, but as far as the quarterback, my point was, who cares? Like we're past the point where we're threading a needle. There's a path, a discernible path. But the thing is that they're not packing up the rest of the season and just shutting it down and saying, well, we're not playing football anymore for the year 2025. It has to go ahead. And as much as people want Fickell gone or Chris McIntosh gone and on and on and on, it ain't happening it ain't happening before the football season happens. I don't know if you get to, the Buckeyes coming into Camp Randall and doing what they did in 2022, doing the same thing. I don't necessarily see that happening. And my concern going forward is just the motivation, which was that was the concern last year, where they had really competitive games against really good teams, leading at halftime against Penn State, but then they go the next week. And I think the Iowa loss is definitely the most embarrassing one that I can recall. And certainly for me, I don't even think this Maryland one might be close to it. Okay. Especially given how much they needed it. But to me, that's still the most embarrassing loss in a rivalry game. And my Iowa friends are like, damn, dude, what happened to your freaking program? I don't want to hear that, but they have to play the rest of the season. So I'm glad you kind of talked about what they can do. Because I think that's how you got to do it. Like, one of the things about this too is there's a lot of catharsis. Like, the worst has happened. There's a lot of talk about rock bottom. I don't know whether this is rock bottom. I hope it is, but there's really nothing, like, you can't play anymore because the worst is seemingly has already happened. And I always feel that way about, and I went into this game and I kept telling my wife, like, my knees were shaking because I'm so nervous because everything has to go right. And we're not there. And I think that can still be a lot of fun. And being a pretty positive person in the in my little niche in the Badger sphere, I think I've been on the more positive end of things. But they lost me this weekend with this game. I'm not there anymore. Change needs to be made, but it's just not going to happen in 2025. And for the 2025 season, it's not. So you still do have that to play. And, God only knows. You go and play loose, and who knows, we're talking about before, people they have guys, and, Lord only knows if something happens. It's really hard to get up, and it's hard to, like, go back and analyze things like we've always done, or, we being, this show, and see, okay, you make this tweak and, this happened, and this is what we can look to going forward, and we'll win some games. And that was always the thing, where in year 3, seeing another win on the schedule is pretty difficult to look at. There's, like, the path and see, okay, I could see that, but
after this week,
maybe they happen.
Yeah. After this week, you look at the schedule. I don't see another win.
No.
If they continue to play like this. Now, if they rise above and get to the level that we think they should, there's 3-4 wins on there potentially.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And with the way that the Big Ten schedule is set up, is all these big teams play against each other at least once. And there's going to be, now, unfortunately, a lot of that ends up being after we play against them, of course, but it's a long year. Everybody can get upset. I think the only one on that schedule that I don't think we have any chance of upsetting is Indiana, because they are turning into a buzzsaw. And but we got a puncher's chance against everybody else, but we can't play like this.
Yeah, you can't play like this. Exactly. You can't play like this. Right.
And the team has got to it just has to flat out get better. I mean, I could sit, and I haven't looked at the all 22 for this week yet, and I Don't know if I want to, but you can nitpick little things that they could do to get better, and that's all fine. They just need to grow a pair and just get after it a little
It's
bit
just
more.
cut it loose.
Because
cut it loose.
because I mean, you could hear it in how was it, Aaron Witt. He did a media availability where he was on the verge of tears, and he's a guy that the previous staff kind of gave up on because he was always injured, and Luke Fickell believed in him. Mike Tressel believed in him. And he has persevered, and he's earned a role over these last couple of years. And he's stayed healthy. And then to make for him sounding like he feels like he let them down is that shows you that the players have heart and they want to do this. They haven't given up on the program. They haven't given up on their teammates or their coaches. But that's all fine and dandy, but you got to do it. Yeah. And now Michigan is, if they come out and just play hard and play like that the Maryland game taught them something, or it woke up something. I don't care what the score is. I don't care as long as we take a few of those maize and blue helmets with us on the way out the door is how I feel. And that can snowball. And then there are games that, again, puncher's chance, because we showed it last year.
Yeah.
We were we were a Joe Brunner missed block against Penn State, leading to a costly interception away from beating Penn State, or at least
taking it into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, taking it and Oregon, and Ohio State 2 years ago. We just gotta finish. Just gotta play a complete game. You gotta finish, and you gotta play like you have that sense of urgency, because you've got to. Every player on the roster right now has got to assume, in the era of the transfer portal, that if the house is going to be cleaned, the house is going to be cleaned, and it's going to be scorched earth. And whoever comes in is going to whoever's going to come in is going to bring his own team.
100%.
Because now looking back on it, that was definitely one of maybe the mistakes that Luke Fickell made. He came in and it was, okay, we can meld the elites. We can bring our attitude and keep these players and yada, yada, yada. Maybe he should have gone scorched earth and gotten rid of the malcontents on the roster. Maybe some of the guys who are now playing at Illinois, those type of guys, and gone scorched earth, and the rebuild would have been faster. Who knows? But whoever the next guy coming in, I mean, we talked about Indiana a few seconds ago. That's how Seghetti did it. He brought it. He brought in dudes from James Madison.
A lot of
and he went to the portal. They spent money in the portal. The university's behind him, and they got good fast. The next guy coming in is going to look at what Luke Fickell did and what Seghetti did at Indiana. Is like, I'm going that route. And so the guys who are on this roster now, if they want to have a team to play on in Madison next year, they've got to have that mentality that we are playing for our jobs, essentially. And you used to not have to say that about college kids.
No.
But now you really are, is with everything that leads to them making money in college football these days now makes them expendable. And I hope the Maryland game has kind of lit that fire under them, because I guess they want to be treated like professionals, and it could happen.
Well, it's kind of interesting too, because I'm thinking, you think of the spirals, and you have players transferring and recruits leaving, and I'm glad you kind of kicked something loose in my head there, because look, if you want to transfer, the team won 2 games, but you were on the field. So like, what does that say about you? And what does it say about your heart? And you know what I mean? Like there's plenty there's when you look at it that way, especially in a much more mercenary environment than used to exist. Like, you need to show your quality too. And there's a lot to be said out of that. So one of the things I tried to fit in that it's I'm not letting you off the hook is we do the under the radar player of the game. Was there anyone, and I meant to do this before, where there was in the subject of positivity, or if there was anything good to take away, was there anyone that you could point to that would be a under the radar player of the game?
Not that he had a great game, but I think Matt Young.
Yeah, really?
Okay.
Yeah,
he did okay.
Yeah,
You're not.
I was fascinated to see how he'd play. Not to interrupt you there, but you're
not noticing that the things that we were worried about him coming in from a D3 school and all that I think are gone now. He's a Big Ten player.
Yes. Yeah.
He's the type of guy that 10 years ago would have walked on, and 4 years later, somehow he's an All-American.
I know. I think of like Jason Doring, not necessarily Jim
Yeah.
Leonard, but he's the guy I always think of when I think of Matt Young as Jason.
Yeah,
Doring.
and with how football is now, kids are gonna take opportunities, and he took the opportunities he had. He played, and then he got more opportunities, and now he's taking advantage of it.
Yeah,
he's got some room to work, but for what he is, I think he is solid, and I'm looking forward to him getting more playing time next year. I would assume be the presumptive starter in Zachman's spot. I think him and Trainer are an intriguing combination between the two. Zachman's absence was noticeable because I think Austin Brown got hung out to dry a couple times. Latimer got hung out to dry a couple times. So if it was under the radar, Preston Zachman's absence is something to pay attention to.
Before, yes.
but if we're going to be positive, I think Matt Young was positive.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's a great call. And he, like I said there before, he was one of I've been excited about him just to see, and not saying, oh, he had 6 pick sixes, blah, 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 blah. I've been interested to see, because there's obviously some ability there, how that translates, blah, 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 that. So that's a really good choice.
Yeah. I've been excited about Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. I'll say I've been excited about Matt Young since last summer, when he was a part of those Team USA under 20 teams that lost to Japan and Austria, but he was a kamikaze. Whenever something good happened on the team, it was like, hey, there's my guy from Nina. There he is right there. and he was the only guy I noticed. So when he came here, I got very excited. And it's fun to see that he's finding a role.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something that not everybody, if you know about it, great, but you wouldn't know about it like somebody like you would know about it. So, so here's one too that we've done like conspicuous by their absence, and I'm going to take just conspicuous by the way the game is and how everything sits, because I would never pick Vinny Anthony as an under the radar player, but he is the one guy out there that I saw on offense that has stayed like not just competent but effective. And he's somebody that is still making highlight plays. And I think to me, he's one of the most professional dudes out there. And, he gets it that, okay, fine. This isn't what I wanted in terms of wins and losses. But not only did he stick with it, but even in a game like this, he's still out there making plays, and he stands out on the field that you'd be like, yeah, that dude's, he gets it. So he's only under the radar because he is against the backdrop of, a pretty uniformly bad performance by his teammates. So whether that makes him under the radar, I don't know, but it is against the backdrop, because you wouldn't really notice what a solid performance he turned in, and continues to turn in, and he had the kick return too. And there was a couple kick returns that he had even in this game that he was a crease away from doing something that's 50, 60, 70 yards, whether he gets in the score, blah blah blah. But there was a couple of them where he was just a crease away, and there is no lack of confidence, there is no lack of professionalism, there is nothing about his mindset that tells you he's packed it in at all. So, and maybe he could be one of the leaders that has to carry them the rest of the way, and
for sure,
and yell at them. Come on, guys, let's I want to keep playing ball.
The few remaining guys who are still here from the Christ era have got to be the glue that brings it back together, because they've been through a lot. If you really think about
they
it,
really have.
Those,
I know.
And they also know, they've been here when they've had the fans behind them. They've been here at the absolute lows when the fans have been against them. Everything in between, and play on both sides, good and bad. They've been to bowl games and all this kind of stuff. And he's the type of guy. It's funny you think of how bad the offense is doing this year, but he's maybe earning himself money for next year by showing some of his versatility, and that he's improving in areas that I thought he needed to work on, like his blocking and getting more involved in special teams, and that's good to see. But he has got to be on the offensive side. He's got to be, hey, let's kick this into gear. Raleigh Mullman's got to be the same way.
Yeah,
Joe Brunner. These guys they've got to, if they believe in the program, if they believe in Wisconsin, regardless of who the coach is, it's their legacy that they are in danger of setting in a very wrong way here. But they could also be the guys that turn it around. And I don't know. I mean, Vinny Anthony is a well-spoken kid. Whenever you hear him in interviews and stuff like that, I don't know what kind of vocal leader he might be. I know Joe Brunner has probably been getting after his guys in his room. But something's got to give, and it's got to come from the players.
It has to come from the players.
Because we as coaches, there just comes a point where the coaching point is just do your job.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know how much simpler I can make this. You need to block that guy, period. Or you need to snap the ball, period. Or you need to tackle.
Well, yeah, and you can't just take
doesn't
your own frustrations out on them either. I mean, that doesn't help anything.
And at times, football really is that simple. It's just you have to do your job. And I don't know how much simpler I can make this, but you just have to do your job. And when you don't do your job, we as coaches, we say we're not supposed to blame the players for our mistakes. We 100% blame the players for their mistakes in private and to the kid's face.
Sure.
We won't do it
when it's supposed to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, but like the players have got to play better, flat out. The coaches have got to they've got to have the mindset the rest of the year that they're playing for their jobs, which they are, or coaching for the jobs, which they 100% are, and find something that they're good at and just spam it, or at least have that mentality that don't try to build something that's not there yet. Don't try to build an NFL offense when you can barely do a college offense.
Just go play.
Just because I think they did that on the defensive side.
I thought so too.
They got some things that they need to improve on.
Yeah.
There are some, Paul Christ-esque, like doing something until it doesn't work anymore and then keep doing it because that's how we are with the defense in terms of like doing man-to-man coverage on people that we're just not fast enough to cover. I hope they see that and start getting away from that and like looking at, I'd rather give up 3-yard hitches underneath and do the zone stuff.
A compelling reason not to. I mean, they noticed that too. So they know that.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, it's a frustrating week, but it could be that watershed moment that just gets the guys like, okay, we read the press too, and we've just got to move forward.
Yep, I agree with you. And like I said, they're not shutting it down. So with that said, but Ryan, thanks for doing this, and do your plugs really quick, and we will get you out of here.
Yeah, well, as always, everything at the Dairy Raid, and not the same relevance it had a little while ago, but yeah. Anyways, YouTube, Substack,
it's still good. It's still a good name. Yeah.
It's. I'm glad I stole it right away as soon as I saw it. I do the nerdy side of football, the X's and O's, and when I have the opportunity, try to look beyond what we see on the broadcast and point out what's actually going on. It's so easy to see the game from the wide angle, but you've got to see the game from a smaller point of view. That's what I try to do. It's a niche inside a niche, but it's where I occupy. So YouTube, Substack, Twitter, everything in there if you like the nerdy stuff.
Yeah. And I know for our audience, if you don't have most of our listeners and subscribers already, I don't know what the heck their problem is, because we got a lot of nerdy stuff in our listenership too, and we like to geek out on that stuff. And I think you have uniformly the best content right now on that topic. I think you have occupied the field. So throw this man some money, folks, and consume his stuff, because you will be smarter about football. I would tell you that. So with that said, thanks a lot, Ryan, and good night and goodbye, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the conversation? Head on over to buckaroundpodcast.com to find all the ways to connect with the show, links to our Patreon page, and feeds for every major podcasting platform. We want to thank each and every one of our patrons. You make this podcast possible. This has been The Buck Around, Badger football analysis from a fan perspective.